Hey guys, and welcome back to the Unfiltered Gamer board game review. Today's game up on the tabletop is Fallen Land, a post-apocalyptic board game by Fallen Dominion Studios. It plays 2 to 5 players, takes about an hour to play, and it's for ages 13 and up, 14 and up. Also, too, if you get the Fallen Land post-apocalyptic board game expansion, A Journey into Darkness, this includes variants for solo play as well as a 6-player expansion, along with some other stuff which we'll talk about in a bit. But as for Fallen Lands, this game is basically a game in which you are now part of the new world of the post-apocalyptic United States of America, in which you'll be selecting different factions, and there's quite a few of them for how many you actually need, as well as you'll be getting their different tokens and traversing the land. As you traverse over the plains and the mountains and the cities, you're going to be acquiring these cards here and seeing what they do. Each and every single card has a unique story that involves the game, in which sometimes you're going to be fighting against bandits, or having a brawl out in a coliseum, or maybe just trying to traverse the United States to get from one portion of it to another in order to accomplish some kind of goal. All the cards range in different missions and variables, as well as additional mission cards that are specifically missions which you'll be trying to accomplish, which can give you some seriously great awards. Not only that, but you're going to start with different things. And in the game, you're going to start with cars, Vespas, or maybe a plane, a helicopter, all these other great things. And that's going to be gotten from the spoil deck. The spoil deck comes with stuff like retro minivans, or different barbecue grills, champagne. There is a plethora of different things you can get in this game as you traverse and successfully accomplish roles, because you're going to be doing roles throughout the game to accomplish your goals. And by equipping your characters with different unique items like chainsaws, or a vest, or a plasma ray, or an alien spaceship gun, you're going to be able to roll the dice and acquire a higher likelihood of succeeding these missions depending on the gear that you have equipped with your characters. You can always move your gear around and all that kind of stuff, but yeah, it is a super cool little post-apocalyptic RPG-ish strategic game in which you're going to be traveling around until you acquire enough of 2 different types of points to win the game. Let me show you what's in the game, all the contents, and what you're going to be getting, alright? So here are all the contents for Fallen Land, a post-apocalyptic game. As you can see, it's not just including the base game, but the expansion as well, and the expansion is going to give you that 6-player variant as well as the single-player variants, and it's going to give you these dice here and a bunch of additional cards that go with the game. You just stick it all together and you can play instantly. You don't need to know anything, just put them together, as well as checking out the rules for all of those unique individual variants. But discussing all of the contents in the game, I'll try and go through it as best as I possibly can. You're going to get the board of the game, which is the United States, and as you can see, it has been destroyed by apocalyptic nature that, most of these games have all the different locations of all the different places you can be, or factions you have throughout the game, as well as the mountains, trains, the city areas, and then the plains. Speaking of which, for the character factions, these are all the different factions you get in the game. There's tons of them: the Brotherhood, the Highwaymen, the Regulators, and it keeps going on and on. There's tons of different choices for you. They all have their own unique faction perks, different locations bonuses. You've got the resources area over here and movement bonuses over here. Your actions are going to be on this side, your town roster hidden here. You're using additional characters throughout the game, as well as where your die are going to be placed for when you're succeeding in those actions or locations that you're going to be going to throughout the game. So yeah, there's a ton of different locations, a ton of factions to choose from. Get this nice big Fallen Lands rulebook, which will give you highly detailed and really nice pictures displaying how the game is going to function. So yeah, if you need any questions, it's going to give you all that, as well as a quick reference symbol chart here, which shows you what all the symbols are, making it really easy to tell what all these tokens are, because there's quite a bit of them, as well as the first player sheet, which goes over the orders of effects, the effects phase, the town business phase. Then you got the phase over here, which is the party exploits phase, and then the end of turn phase. So nice and easy to understand, as well as making sure everybody has their own unique player aid card, front and back. Alright, not only that, but you can have the chart around the board here. As you can see, you've got the prestige area over here, and then the town health over here, and you can win the game in 2 different ways: by getting to this location here, and by increasing your town health as well as your prestige. Either one will work. These are the 2 different sets of die when you get included in the game. You'll be using these to roll, so when you add that extra expansion content, it's going to give it the game a little quicker, because you don't have to share the dice. You can go ahead and give them back and forth with 2 sets. You're also going to get these black die for all different sorts of occasions, and specifically different town phases which you'll be rolling the die to see what happens. Over here are all the different markers that will indicate what your faction is and where you're going to be placing it on the board to start the game off. And you're going to be getting a plethora of chits and cards. Over here, these are all the different things you can upgrade your town with. Maybe you want to give it a learning center, a medical center, water supplies, communication center, law and order. It goes on and on. It gives you those bonuses for successes when you're rolling dice, as well as a bunch of other stuff. Over here are the cards in the game. You got spoils, missions, cities, or rad cards, mountain, plains, character cards, and action cards. These spoils cards are what you're going to be gaining for successful completion of missions and also locations. You get stuff like a hockey mask or an automatic rifle. You get health packs, cars, trains, planes, all kinds of stuff. You're going to go throughout this and find a whole bunch of great stuff in this post-apocalyptic landscape. Not only that, but you'll be achieving different missions at different points in the game. Sometimes they'll make you go across the board, or sometimes they're going to make you do different things that involve different locations around the board, such as going to fight this, and some of these are really crazy. Also, too, you're going to have plains, mountains, and cities, and they are based on easier difficulty to more difficult difficulty, but you can go ahead and do any of them you want throughout the game, beginning or end. Just realize that they're going to be more difficult as you go along. You got the plains cards here whenever you go to one of these plains locations, and they tell you what happens. Maybe a chaotic arena here, or a mysterious stranger, you're going to find him on the road for the pink slips then. So maybe you're racing for cars or something like that. Hungry locals, so maybe they got some cannibalistic neighbors that you're dealing with. Then they got the mountains, right? Rad zombie hero, the natural disasters, rad zombie apocalypse, and abandoned missile silos. So maybe you want to venture there, but dangerous as well. And finally, the cities is most dangerous. You might discover a bookstore scavenge, or maybe a working video game arcade. That'd be kind of cool to visit. Wasteland horrors and repairs, a whole bunch of things. There's a ton of cards in this game. You're also going to be getting characters to start the game off with, and you could experience the fun and memorable Madison Hall, or maybe Vera Olis, or maybe Cam Toretto, and as well as some cards that represent different video games, like that. You're going to see some stuff that kind of melds in with other games that we've seen as kind of like an homage. But nevertheless, the cards are going to have all their stats, as well as what they can carry, their health, psychological damage they might be taking, and a bunch of different character abilities that happen. So maybe they are really good at a certain mission, or maybe they're good. This one says, if your vehicle is destroyed by an encounter, action, or spoil card, roll a d6 and ignore the vehicle destruction on a 1 through 3. So he protects your vehicle. So he's probably a mechanic or something like that. What does it say? He's a wheelman. Okay, so he knows what's up about cars. And all of these different cards are going to do different things. They're all very, very unique, and they all have their own unique artwork as well. You'll also be getting action cards throughout the game that will let you just hurt your opponents or help yourself. Sometimes you'll be getting a lucky charm, or you're going to try and do a heist. These are all cards you'll be drawing and playing throughout the game to accomplish various goals that will help you with your missions, as well as the locations here. You're also going to be getting a various supply of chits, and if you go in the back of the rulebook, like I said, those are all the different explanations of all the chips. You've got the town defense symbols here. These are mission locations where you're putting on the board somewhere. You got the penalties, which are weak penalty chips. Whenever you want to do an extra action, but you don't have enough actions for it, you can do that, but it's going to cost you on your next turn. And then you've got these things over here. These are basically like your faction tokens that you'll be placing down on the board for different reasons. As well as over here, you got the infected wound damage and the radiation damage. They're both front and back. And then you've got psychological damage that we'll be taking, as well as the main source of damage, which will be taking these guys here. These are basically physical damage. And of course, 1 and 3, front and back, which is nice. And then you've got a plethora of different tokens here, and these represent a bunch of stuff. It's not listed here, I don't think, but you've got scavenge tokens, and you're going to be using different you got bullets over here, and you got medical supplies, and you got gas. So there's a ton of different things there. But that, for the most part, is all that is included in Fallen Lands, a post-apocalyptic board game, along with a Journey into Darkness expansion. Let me explain how a basic turn works and how you get started. So to begin the game, Fallen Lands is pretty simple. You're going to take a D10 for everybody, and you're going to roll it. And then whatever you roll, based on that number, is the faction you're going to pick up. And there's 10 factions total. So if I were to roll a 1, and that happened to be my Black Angels here, which I have on the board, then I would take that. I will also take all of their chits that represent them, which obviously are going to be these little guys here, which I explained before, as well as taking their character token here, marker, which is going to place it on the board that follows along with the exact symbol. And there's different character markers on the board for all the different factions. You're also going to take 10 salvage from the pool, as well as 10 spoil cards, 6 of the 3 character cards and 3 action cards. Not only that, but there's going to be some silver bordered cards, these guys here, which if your faction says to take, you're going to be taking one or more of these. My faction says I get to actually take one of these paramedic medical kits. It could also tell you to take some other things as well, such as these guys here. You'll be taking certain ones there. Also, you're going to then pull through your spoils. If you find any vehicles, you're going to choose one and put the other one into the auction, and there's an auction which will all the different things you're not going to need. You're going to then set your movement bonus to whatever that movement bonus of the vehicle is. Also, you're going to take all your characters except for one, which you'll be putting in the town roster, which will be face down underneath your card, and you're going to equip each of them to a crown, and the crowns are basically going to be labeled with these little points here, which I'll explain in a second as well, down here, and you're going to put them on each one, and you're going to equip them with all the different weaponry or different suits of armor and all that kind of stuff, as much as they can carry, as much as you want to put on them. However, they can only use a certain amount. They can only use like 2 hands worth of equipment. But after you go ahead and set up all that, put your action cards in front of you, make sure you put all your different tokens on the board in their respective areas, which I'll show you. Then you're ready to begin the game as long as everybody else has done so. Pick a first player and go. But before we talk about that, let me go ahead and show you physically how to start the game off. So back to the board again, and we're going to discuss how to set up the basic idea of the game. Well, as you can see, these are all the different 10 factions, 1 through 10, and you would take the 10-sided die and you would roll it, and let's say I got a 1, because that's what I explained before, and it happened to be the Coalition of the Black Angel. That would be the one I would be taking. I'd go ahead and put this die back, and all of these would get rolled off to different players. We'll go ahead and move these really quick so you guys can get a good look at just this specific faction and how it works to set just one up, because if you can set one up, you can set them all up. Alright, so now we have also drawn 10 spoil cards. We have 6 characters from the decks here and 3 action cards. You're also going to get 10 of these salvage tokens, and like I was just saying before, there's like the bullets and the trash cans and all that. They're all basic salvage, and you just need 10 of them. You're also going to be getting these tokens here. These represent the different symbols for each of your factions. So the Coalition of the Black Angel has these ones here. So I'm just going to put them over here, except for the ones that I'm going to set aside on the board. So over here at the begin, for this area over here for prestige, as well as on 30 for town health, because getting to these locations with either one is going to have you win the game. Also, you're going to look through your spoil cards, and there's going to be a bunch of equipment in here. Here's Humvee, and this is some kind of Enigma van, and then you've got obviously armor and weapons and all that good stuff. So if I had these 2 vehicles, I would go ahead and select one of them that's going to be with us for the portion of the game in which you're going to be able to keep it, and you're going to set the speed to whatever the vehicle speed says. So for one it might be 2, and you just go ahead and put this above. So this would be off the board obviously, but this symbol will be right here, and whenever you go up speed you do that, whenever you go down speed. So that makes sense, right? The other one is going to go to the auction house, and over here is where the auction house says it is. Not only that, but you're also going to have characters here, and the characters are going to represent the town, and where you're going to be putting them. These are each location here are called crowns, and you're going to be placing them on each of these areas as best you can. You can move it aside more if you have more room, and the remaining character will go under here. Now, that would be, that's a basic aspect for that, but you're also going to be getting special faction packs and perks for each of the different factions. So a combat medic, these guys are basically the medical, underground medical guys, and so they're going to be getting these 2 town upgrades, which one of them is going to be this one here, which is the medical center, and also this one over here, which is the learning center. So they're smart, and they are basically like paramedics, but they're also going to get this stuff here. So it says begin the game with a paramedic kit. These silver bordered cards, which are actually just spoil cards, or you're going to be given factions that require them or that have that desire them based on this card here. So this one that would just start with that. So that's kind of cool. You're going to get the special cards there. And yeah, you're going to take your main marker and you can look on the board and place it right there. The rest of these can be used for locations that you might acquire throughout the game. They'll give you different bonuses and whatnot. And then you're going to take your equipment and equip them to different characters, and they have the different weight as to what they can carry. Some of the equipment actually will say, you know, there's 5 flamethrowers or 5 minivans or whatever, or five different knives. And if that's the case, all of them get to equip it. However, they have to all be able to carry it, otherwise, boop, to the auction house in which it can be sold. After every player has gotten their boards all set up, then the game is ready to begin, and we're going to start with the effects phase. So now we're ready to begin the game. The only thing you have to do before that is you're going to be rolling 2d10, and then based on what the numbers are, you're going to be placing down missions. You put 2 down on the board. So if you roll a 2 and a 7, you put down on a mission on 27, and then 3 and a 2, you'd put your second mission on 32. Otherwise, then there's 4 phases to the game in which everybody's going to take clockwise order to, or sometimes even simultaneously. The first thing is the effects phase, in which certain things are going to happen, and then you're going to have the town business phase, in which you're going to be doing stuff like drawing cards, producing resources, using your auction house to buy and sell things. You have the town events chart, which you'll roll a 10-sided die and see what happens. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. And then finally, you have the financial period, where you'll be able to sell and purchase different things, as well as hire mercenary thugs. The next thing is you're going to be able to use this personal little sheet here, and it tells you the party exploits phase, in which you're going to be hiring non-player character, or moving non-player characters, as well as moving yourself. You're going to have a month worth of time in the game, and in that phase you're going to be doing different things. Sometimes it'll cost you a week to do a PvP deed, or it'll cost you 2 weeks to do a resource deed. You can encounter something for a week, or movement is going to cost a week, and so on and so forth, and you move your movement. And the last thing is end of turn phase, and where you're going to adjust your marker chips for your town health and prestige, as well as passing the first player sheet to the next player in clockwise order. And then you're going to rinse and repeat and take those different phases again. So let me go ahead and show you each of the phases in a little more detail down here on the board. So now let's talk about the first phase of the game, and that's the effects phase. What happens is you resolve. In the following order, you're going to solve any world encounter and other event cards. This is a world encounter right here. It says a nuclear strike, and depending on what it says, you'll have to try and complete it, or something bad will happen throughout the game. You'll get these periodically when you go to the different cities or plains or mountains, and etc. Also, you're going to be applying any infected wounds. This is an infected token. If it's on a player, it's going to add an additional one, and after a player has hit their total life point, they're going to be discarded. Then you're also going to apply any psychological damage. So if this guy has psychological damage, maybe another one gets put on him. If he ever has 3, or any player has 3, it is removed and they're killed. It's based off of these, actually. The normal one is 3. So this is 4 and this one is 5. Also, you're then going to go on to the next phase. So everybody is going to do this in turn order, and then the next phase will begin, and that is the town business phase. In the town business phase, you're going to deal out 1 action card for every player. So this is 1 card, it'll go into his hand of cards. Not only that though, but certain factions as well as character cards all have their own unique abilities. Some of them will let you do different things. I'm not going to go over every single ability on these cards, but they do have different things. Like for instance, this Information Crossroads, and the Black Angel Coalition can actually, during the town phase, the business phase, you can pay 5 salvages, which are these guys here, to draw an extra action card. So that's pretty cool, and everybody has their own unique stuff. After that, then you're going to move on to the resource production field, resource production phase, which is like a sub phase, provided that you didn't receive anything from the town technologies, which are these guys here. These ones are just simply successes to different locations, which are really good, but sometimes it might let you draw an extra card or something like that. The resource production phase is pretty simple. You're going to receive town health and salvage tokens produced based on if you acquire different resources on the map. So if once you get your first one, you'll go ahead and place this guy here, and you get your second, third, fourth, and so on. This tells you how much town health, this is 1, and then how much salvage you get, which is 1 here. 2, 4, 3, 9, you get the idea. Then after that, you're going to move on to the auction house phase, which is opening, bartering, and spoil cards located in the auction house, or any auction house. It's simultaneous. So this is my auction house. This is my little Enigma van here, and I can choose to put this for auction in which all players can bid on it. I can choose not to sell to certain players. I can choose to sell to a specific player. It's up to you. You kind of get the option of how you want to do it. But not only that, then you're also going to be able to keep this card if you don't want to, and you can use it for the financial period, which happens in the last phase of the town business phase, so the last sub phase. After the auction house is done and everybody's done bidding on your stuff, you go to the town events chart, and you're going to roll a d10. You just take one of your d10 and you roll it, and then you look at the chart and apply whatever effect it says. On an 8, I would lose 1 town health. However, on a 1, you gain 2 prestige, 4 town health, and action, spoils, or character card, which is really good. So the lower you roll, the better. The higher you roll, the not so good it could be. After you do that, you go into the financial period, which is what I was talking about. If you didn't sell this van to somebody in an auction, you can actually go ahead and sell it yourself. Every single card on the right-hand side has a sell value, and as you can see over here, they all have sell values. The spoils cards as well as the action cards themselves, you could sell these as well. Then, after you do all your selling and gaining your salvage tokens for selling, you can do purchases. You can buy town technologies, these guys here. You gotta buy tier 1 before you buy tier 2, which is just simply flipping it over. And it tells you how much it costs. Some of them cost 30, others cost 40. You already have these 2 here, so if you wanted to upgrade them, you could simply pay the additional cost, which is 60 for the higher extra medical center. And you could do that as well. After that, you can then go to purchasing town defense chips and equip it, as well as hiring non-player cards or non-player mercenaries. This is called the Dark Tide. They basically represent an entire party. They have this like alpha value here, which is 12, which means it equates to all of their stats, as well as how much they move. They actually do it all by themselves. They have a certain amount of health, and you're going to choose during the town business phase, which is now, which action you can have them do. And they can do maybe this one here. It says move to an opponent's town, steal up to 4 spoils cards in their auction house, or steal up to 20 salvage coins. Once they complete their mission, they're gone. However, they're going to stay and play, and they act kind of like another character during their existence on the field. But once they've completed their task or die, they get removed. After that, you've done all of the different sub-phases in the town business phase. Everybody else will do that as well, and then we'll move on to the next phase, which is actually going to be on the next map over here. So now we're back to the board, and as you can see, it's all fully set up with 5 players. We'll only be using 1 though. We've got the missions over here. I'm going to explain how the party exploits phase works, and the first thing you do in the sub-phase is NPCM, the non-player character mercenaries. You can move them around and attempt to resolve their assignments or have them wait for a party to join them. Nevertheless, after doing that, we're going to talk about your specific characters here, your specific faction as you move along. Now you're going to get 4 weeks, which is basically a month. The game's rounds take place in a month for every single player, and you're going to be doing a couple things. There's movement deed, there is encounter deed, there is the PvP deed, which are fighting each other, there is the resource deed, healing, and then the mission deed. Now the moving one's pretty simple. It's going to cost you a week, and you can move your total movement based on your vehicle. This vehicle here shows you your plus feet, and then there's another plus feet there, which is total of 3 movement. And you're also going to take the die, your d6, and roll it. So that would give you 5. Now, when moving, there's a couple interesting things. There's a map key over here that states everything and how much it costs to move to each location. So moving on the plains costs 1. Moving into a mountainous is going to cost you 2. And then if you go into a city, that's going to cost you 3. Now, if it's your last movement, so if I went 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I wanted to go here, which maybe it'll cost me more than 1 movement. This one doesn't cost me more than 1, so maybe a better idea would be 1, 2, 3, 4. And I wanted to go over here. My last movement, I could actually do that, so I can go into here, even though it would cost 3. But otherwise, it would suck up your movement. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which would take you into that city. And there's a couple other things as well. If you go into the radiation zones, it's going to give you radiation damage, but you're going to be able to gain a spoils card. And then your cities, whenever you go into them, you're going to be able to gain a spoil card. If ever a tile has multiple things, like if we look at this one over here, it's got the city in part of it, it's got the plains in part of it, and the mountainous. The cost is going to be the greatest cost, which is going to be the city for 3. It's also radiated, so that's also nasty as well. But when you go in there, you can also choose between the cards here. You got the plains, mountain, and city. You could choose any of them for that specific location. And so drawing them, you could choose between the difficulty rating of how you want your parties to succeed or not. And if you don't want to move, there's also a couple other things. There's encounter deed, which is you're going to draw an encounter on the appropriate deck based on the location of your point of interest. So if I was over here, I could draw a plains card, and vice versa in these other locations. Like I said previously, you can draw any of them on certain ones. Then you also have the PvP deed, which means that you are on the same space as another player. You can attack them if they're in your hex, as well as you have the resource deed, which means you can occupy a resource hex and claim it. And there's different resources around the board there, and you can claim them, which is going to give you more town health and salvage at the beginning of the next turn. And as well as healing. Whenever you're on your own location, if you want to heal, you'll be able to remove up to 1d6 of damage per success for your party, and you can remove additional points per character, psychological and whatnot, if you're on your own location. So if you're not on your own location, if you're just on one of these spaces or other city, you can basically only remove basic stuff. But when you're on the main city locations, you can actually remove psychological and the nasty stuff, the radiation and whatnot. However, when you want to go to other players, you can do it there, but you have to ask them permission first, and then you have to also discard 5 salvage coins to heal in a neutral starting town, or basically pay another player as long as they agree for it. The last thing you can do is a mission deed, and as you can see, there's missions over here on the side of the board, and they'll pop up periodically as you finish them off. You'll be able to draw these mission cards. Now, it's going to cost you 3 weeks to do that, so you have to only already have maybe a character right here, and you can move 7 or something like that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or whatever. Once you go on this location, you have to spend 3 weeks to do that mission. You'll draw the mission card and do what it says, and maybe you have to do a checks or go across the board. There's a ton of stuff. Nevertheless, so we'll go ahead and show you a basic turn. It's pretty simple. Maybe I wanted to go, so I rolled my movement, which is my 3 plus 1, so that's 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then for another, that's 1 week. I have 3 weeks left. Maybe another week I'm going to spend going to the plains and drawing this card. And I can spend the other 2 weeks however I want. It's basically weeks is equating to actions. So if I wanted just to move across afterwards, I could do that. But we're going to go ahead and show you one of the missions and how you would go about completing it or failing it. So this is called Tainted Supplies, and it says in the intense conditions of the previous weeks, you've had little time for proper maintenance of your perishables. Salmonella has infected your entire group. The good news, according to your maps, it might be possible for you to resupply at a small settlement about 200 miles away. The bad news is you're dehydrated and you got light and you're overheated from this catastrophe. Everyone continues to vomit and soil their pants. Speed is the essence if you want to survive. So we're going to go ahead to the next board and show you how it works. So still following on with the party exploits phase, as well as this little mission here, the Tainted Supplies, we're going to make a party skill check. And the first thing we're going to do is check here. And now right here is going to show you for all of the cards what you're going to need to complete the mission. So as you can see over here, that tells you what you have to do. It also tells you how much salvage you're going to gain to begin with. So that's 1 salvage to gain. After that, you're then going to, let me go ahead and put this here. You're then going to complete this one. This is a medical check. And you're going to roll for all of your entire party. The only time you wouldn't roll for your entire party is if it tells you an individual check, or if it specifically says you cannot do that. Take all your dice here, and you're going to chuck them. All right. Then you're going to place them. So I'm going to place the black one there, and the rest of them are going to be color-coded. So we got red there, and a 6, and then 4, and a 7. Now, skill checks are interesting. Here's how it works. So you're going to look at the specific skill for all your party members based on whatever you're rolling for. So this is medical, and as you can see, all of them have medical, even your little Humvee does. And to win a check, you have to roll under their total score or equal to. So this was a 5 or lower. This one would be an 8 or lower, and so on and so forth. If you ever roll a 1, it's an instant success, and you can choose to roll again. However, whenever you roll a 10 or a 0, technically, you're going to instantly fail that, along with any successes for that specific character you would have previously earned. So you have to be careful with that. So we're going to go ahead and check. Now we need 3 successes. That's what it says, 3 medical. So this is an 8, and we have 5 here. So that is a failure. That does not get us what we need. This is a 5, 6, 7, 8, and this is a 7, so that's a success. So we'll go ahead and just leave it there, I suppose. This is a 5, and we have a 6, so that's no good. This is a 4 and a 4, so that's a success as well. I'll just put it like that, so we have 2 so far. This is a 5, and we have 10 here, so that's pretty quality. Basically, whenever you have more than 10, though, if you had 11, he would actually get a free success, and his roll would equate to whatever the die is. So if he had 13, and I rolled a 2, I would get 1 success for 10, and then there would be 13 left. There would be 3 left over. So if I got under the 3 for the roll, I would get an additional success. But that doesn't happen. So I get 1 more success. That puts me at 3 success. And finally over here, I rolled a 9, and I have 3 there for medical. But luckily, that's a fail. But luckily, I have 3, which is all I need for the success in the medical department. So I would then take these die once again, and I would roll them now for the fire or survival. All right, here we go. And we take it again. So we got an 8. 8. Oh, these numbers are not good. Not good at all. Hopefully we'll still survive this. We'll see. 7 and 6. I know this is kind of like a purpley color, but it is in fact blue. All right, let's go ahead and check it out. So we've got the fire. This is the campfire. That's a 6. This is a 7, so that's not going to do it. 10 is an instant fail. 5, and we have 8, so that will do it. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 will do it. We get an instant success, which is 1, and we didn't roll a 1, so we didn't get another success, so that'll still give us 1 there. 8, and this is going to be 6, so no good, and then 8, and that's a 1. So we have only acquired 2 so far. Now we needed 4. But you can use some skill cards sometimes. So this one says, play during the party exploits phase. A character of your choice gains 1 additional success to a skill check. So bam, he would gain additional success here. That would be 3. We'd still need 4. And unfortunately, that would be a failure if we didn't acquire if we didn't succeed on both checks, then we're going to see what the failure card does. However, you can always check over here. This is a plus success to medical. So actually, instead of 3, we would have gotten 4. And if we actually had a water supply, if we had this here, we had paid 30, we would get an additional success, and that would have us complete that. So we would have gotten lucky and succeeded. However, we didn't have that, so we have failed this mission. We're going to take all the die back. We're not going to need these now. We're going to look at the card itself. And the card here says, if we would have succeeded, we would have drawn a spoils card. However, we failed, so it says you are delayed, receive 2 week penalty chips. That means next turn that we were going to be taking our actions, instead of 4 weeks, we're only going to get 2 because we're going to have a subtraction of 2. And then discard your most valuable spoils card. Referring to the salvage coin. So you look at your most valuable spoils card and you discard that. Now don't forget too, anything on this line is important. So this here is psychological damage, and you're going to roll for each and every character, and you have to get under their psychological value, which are these things here. And if they take damage, you're in trouble. However, you can always check your party members because they have a bunch of stuff here. This guy says once per turn, one party member may re-roll their failed psychological check. So that may prevent you from taking psychological damage. You'd roll all these, and then if you got under, you'd be okay. If not, you'd be putting psychological damage on your characters, and if they ever got 3, they're going to get removed. So that's kind of nasty. After that, we would go back to the main board, and we would continue our last 2 weeks of play, whether we're moving or drawing new cards for new missions, and then everybody else is going to get to also do the party exploits phase. After that, we go on to the end of turn phase. Now we come to the end of turn phase, and it's pretty simple. Any of our special cards or missions that have any turns, we're going to actually be moving those chits to the side. So basically we're going to add it maybe to the side of the board here, and say it's 3 turns, whatever. We'll just move those over to represent how many turns are left in those specific sequences. And as well as passing that first player card to the next player and continuing turns like that. And that is the basic aspect of the game. You win by getting your town health all the way from one side of the board to 80, or you also win from getting your prestige level from 1 all the way to 20. Either way it will work, and once you do that, you successfully completed the game and stomped out your opponents in the game Fallen Lands, a post-apocalyptic game. Alright, so that's the basic aspect of it. Let me go and talk to you about a couple of caveats, as well as some of the cards, show you some of the events, because there's a bunch of cool stuff in this game, and I briefly just skimmed over it, so I'll give you a little bit more to just sink your teeth into. So as I discussed earlier, there's a ton of different factions you can choose from. This one here is the Sigma Corporation, the Sons of Neptune, the Swamp Runners, the Syndicate, Enclave of Terra, and they all have their own unique perks, as well as their own unique the additional technology they're going to have to start with. This one here is the Enclave of Terra. It says the beginning of the game with the compound hunting both spoils cards, so there's 7 ones you're going to be getting for each different faction, as well as maybe Wily, your party gains +1 during flight rolls, or Kismet, once per turn during a solo encounter card, reroll a failed skill check. That's very, very useful. My specific one, the Black Angels, they are more of a medical aspect, and they let you get additional skill cards, as well as you start with the first aid kit. This Syndicate over here, it begins with a town defense chip, as well as high rollers. During the town events card, you must roll a d6. On a 1 to 3, receive 5 salvage coins in the bank. However, on a 6, you discard 7 salvage. So they're salvages, but they can cost you if you mess up. You've got these Swamp Runners, and this one here has a Born on the Bayou. Your party gains +2 flight during PvP. Smuggler's Network. Each time you sell a spoils card from your auction house to another player, receive 3 salvage coins. And more. They all have about 4 different perks for each of these different factions, and there's more factions than you're ever going to have players for, so that's pretty cool. Spoils cards. So I showed you basically how they function, as well as a couple of them I talked about, but they all have combinations, right? And you have to look through all of them during play because they can all be very beneficial. Sometimes you're going to get a basic handgun, like this is a range weapon, a 9mm pistol. It just tells you what it does here, as well as this extra rusty cleaver. Over here is these are 5 classic 45 pistols, which are pretty cool because you equip them to all party members, provided you can. You've got a computer technical manual. This one here says you can discard after you fail a technical skill to succeed it instead. So this is kind of like an action slash spoils card as well. Here is a chopper and a pilot. Immediately pay 10 salvage coins to hire, otherwise you have to discard it. All hexes cost 1 movement. This vehicle is not a wheeled vehicle. It has it can carry up to 16 and moves up to 8. Very, 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 very good card. Ultimate set of tools. This one, once per game, retrieve any card from your spoils discard pile. And there is over 100 of these cards, so there's a ton of them. Action cards, like I used one of them previously to increase my failed mission to +1, but I still wasn't able to complete it. You got recon scouts you can play during the party exploit phase. Before drawing an encounter card, look at the next 3 cards and choose and put them back in any order. Stuff like Spy Master, during the end phase, look at each player's hand or action cards, keep 1 card from each player, and return the rest. Destroy Relic, placed during the end of turn. On an opponent, select and discard one of their relics spoils cards. So relics are really good. Crossroads, play before a mission card to instead draw 3. Choose 1 to attempt and discard the others. Fahrenheit 51, Traitors, Revenge, Hope, and Solidarity. This one, play during the town business phase. Choose 1 player to exclude. All other players receive each of the benefits below, except for 1 person. 1 prestige, 2 town health, 1 character card, a spoils card, an action card, and 10 salvage coins. Really cool. And these cards will all be played during different aspects of the game based on what the cards say. And the characters all have so many unique aspects to them. Once per game during the effects phase, search the spoils deck for a ranged weapon of your choice and equip it. Wow, that's amazing. This one here, if you are dealt Mei Feng, I believe you say her name, to start the game, receive 1 communication hub tier 1 town technology. Otherwise, you can buy it for 15 salvage coins. So there's a plethora of different characters, a plethora of different cards, all a ton of great stuff, a ton of great content in this game. And you'll be going around doing a bunch of stuff, including these crazy missions. And they are thick. They have a lot of stuff going on here. There's a bunch of flavor text. It says it's optionally attempted. Place your party on the nearest mountain hex. Place a special chip there. Unless you succeed or fail, this card returns into play and anybody can do it. Anybody can do these mission cards after you've gone ahead and attempted to complete it. And it tells you what you need to do, and if you succeed and if you fail, and you can get a ton of good stuff, but you can also suffer extremely bad, as well as some of the mission cards can make you blow up and make you start all over again. There's nuclear warhead, nuclear missions, silos, and all that kind of stuff that gets really nasty, cannibals and terrorists and all that good stuff in the game. But hopefully it's given you a good idea of how to play the game, what's going to be in the game, and how you're going to go back and forth with the turns. Alright, well let me tell you what I think about the game. So what do I think about Fallen Land, a post-apocalyptic game? Well, first of all, it looks beautiful. The art looks great. Everything looks pretty cool in this game. The board is kind of meh, in my opinion, because it's just a board in the United States, but really, as I thought about it, could you make it modular and all this kind of stuff? Not really, and the reason why is because a lot of the cards in here are very story-driven, and it's specifically to the location, specific to the United States, so it would look kind of funky if you did it that way. So the board does serve its purpose, and it does it very well. Even how you move across the board, it works very fluidly, and it makes sense. It also lets you get to the last spot, which is very nice. And in a 4 to 5 player game, the game takes longer. It takes about an hour per player, so it's a very long and very thick game that has a lot of wording on the cards, but that's kind of what you're getting into when you get into a game like this. It's for the story aspect. The rolling the dice to complete the missions is fun, dealing with the different events and the different bad things as well as trying to complete the missions is cool. Your town changes and the story changes. Every game I've played of this so far, it's given me some kind of thing that I've remembered. The first game I played, I didn't start with the helicopter. I started with the 5 little pink Vespas. Well, my partner, or I guess the other faction, started with a helicopter and a bunch of great stuff. However, it can pain you at certain points in time where you're rolling the dice and you get a low number on that town phase and you get something terrible, or a high number in the town phase, and you get something terrible that happens to you. You're going to lose your vehicle, you're going to lose this or that. So the game balances itself out in that way. And also, as you're moving around, you can complete different missions that other people have shown you. You can go and fight them. You can team up. There is political aspects to the game where you can try and go after the person who has the most stuff. And all the factions seem very nice. They're all their own unique factions with their own unique perks that all work differently. In fact, when I first started with the Angels faction, the one I liked the most, I thought it was going to be a dark, like, kind of like a fighting, Black Angels, but they're actually medical units, and it was very interesting how they worked. It let me draw new supply cards and whatnot, and the art on it was really cool. That's what really drew my eye to it first. And this one lets me fight club. During melee combat only encounter cards, I can receive an additional combat success, which is super cool. Performing a healing deed in a neutral starting town without having to pay the bank. So I can, instead of paying that salvage coins, I get to do it for free because I'm a healer. I also get to start with the healing perk as well as the learning perk, because my guys are smart and they're good at keeping themselves alive. You're also going to want to be going through to win the game. It's so funny because I don't even care about winning the game when I'm playing this game, really. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but for me, I just like the story, the aspects, moving around. Failing and succeeding is all fun to me. Because when you're going around and you're completing these resources, you're trying to get more town health, obviously, and you're getting more salvage, and that's a way to win the game, is going around doing that kind of stuff, as well as just simply playing the game. You'll start moving up the board as you go along. Now, sometimes when bad things happen, your town health can go lower, and you can lose prestige, or your people can make you lose prestige, and there is that aspect to the game. So if you like that back and forth combat-y aspect of the game, there is that in the game. But really the game is more engulfed in story. And I mean, every single one of these cards has at least a paragraph of story text. It tells you what happens. You feel the story go out throughout the game. I remember also in one of my first plays of the game, I walked into a town and I happened to find this gladiatorial combat ring. I had to choose one of my best fighters and go off and fight. And if I could beat certain rounds, I would gain certain prizes. However, it doesn't keep everybody else out of the game while I'm doing that, because they're able to bet on whether or not I'm going to win against the different fighters. And I can choose what fighter I want to fight against, so I can get more stuff. However, if I fail, the people who are betting against me get stuff and I don't get anything. So it has those aspects of the game. The action cards can be very brutal against your opponents, or can be very beneficial for yourself, or on the occasion they're a mix of both. That is a cool aspect of the game as well. Prestige is mainly won through missions as well as the different encounters, where town health is mainly gathered on across the board during resources. So you have both options in the game. So there is a lot of positive to say about the game. I very, very much so did enjoy this game. However, I have to include some of the negatives I found in it, and I think it's mainly going to be the length of time in the game. No matter how short you want to make it, you could stop. You don't have to read the flavor text. You can just simply go around the cards and play the success or fails, and that's okay. But really, the game makes up for that. Story is what makes the game, in my opinion. So you could try and subtract that hour length per player if you wanted to, but I really wouldn't want to. And if you're the kind of player who doesn't like thick, deep, involving RPG style games with a little bit of tactics, a little bit of politics, it's probably not going to be the game for you. Also, if you don't like the fact that there is a lot of stuff you're going to have, each character can hold a plethora of different items, and all those items do something. The characters themselves do something, as well as giving potential bonuses. They have different health and different... there could be a lot of players thinking a little too much. Analysis paralysis could be occurring through this game, especially if you get that one person who is really engulfed in making sure the numbers are perfect as best as you possibly can. The game can take a little longer and draw out. But that being said, otherwise, this is a very engaging game. It's a very deep, thick, thought-out game, and you could tell there's a lot of love put in these cards. You can see the different storylines as they go across the game. As you're doing different things, you're going to have these memorable moments where something great is going to happen or something terrible is going to happen to you. It does feel like a Fallout-style board game, to use that. It does feel like you're walking across a burned, destroyed United States where everything that is wrong could be wrong, and where the slight glimmer of hopes of small little things make everything more worthwhile, and you feel like you've attained something just by getting a little notch up there. You complete the game with getting the prestige and the town health, and it works very well. So if you like that kind of style game, I definitely suggest it. If you're not really for the lengthier games, the ones that have a lot of different options, a lot of different things going on, and honestly, there's times where I couldn't remember all the different things going on my board because there's just so much, and I missed something that could have been very useful. So that being said, it's up to you. For me personally, I really enjoyed this game, and with a very thick style and a deep theme, and also adding this Fallen Lands, the post-apocalyptic theme, the Journey into Darkness expansion, this is just more game, as well as it does shorten the time length because you're able to use an extra set of die here, which is nice to passing around the table. I never really liked that, so this edition is very nice. And if you want to play a single RPG style game, which just kind of feels not like Seven Continent, but at least the story aspect of it, you're definitely going to enjoy Fallen Lands, a post-apocalyptic board game. Alright guys, thanks for watching another Unfiltered Gamer board game review. If you like this video, go check out the rest of our videos here on YouTube. Like, subscribe, and comment. It all helps and we greatly appreciate it. Also, check out Fallen Lands post-apocalyptic board game down in the description below. You can pick that game up. The last thing I want to say, double-sided tokens. This game, I love the fact that it has double-sided tokens. It makes it so easy to put up. There's so many games that are so thick and big and take forever to put up, but this one sets up very nicely, even though there's a lot of stuff. Nevertheless, I had to squeal about that because I was so excited about these tokens. The quality is so nice in this game, you can tell. Alright, also go ahead and check out our website, unfilteredgamer.com, for tons of blog posts, giveaways, Kickstarter lists, and more. As well as checking out, we went to PAX South last week, and if you're interested, we have a huge blog of all the new games and all the latest stuff coming out of PAX, as well as all the designers, Pencil First Games, Druid City Games, any board and table, table and board, table and card, as well as Roxley, dice throwing stuff, all that good stuff coming out. So do check that blog out. We do greatly appreciate it, as well as checking out our friends and even maybe close family, I guess, as we would say now, the board game family. Everythingboardgames.com, as well as thegiveawaygeek.com, and my close personal friend, Ferdinand, the cardboard stacker. He does a bunch of tutorials, reviews, and all that good stuff. Go ahead and check him out there at the channel as well as below. And that's all we got for you guys this time. I look forward to seeing you next time.